Voice of Change News.
This is Voice of Change Radio News. I'm Amanda Kumalo. A quick look at stories making the headlines. Shun division, hatred, anger and malice, President Mnangagwa. In business news, new era beckons for NRZ. In regional news, Joe Biden to be impeached. In sports news, Dembare learnt the hard way. The news in detail. Zimbabweans should reject the spirit of division, hatred, anger and malice and instead safeguard the peace, unity and love prevailing in the country ahead of the fast approaching harmonized elections, President Mnangagwa has said. The head of state implored all political leaders and actors to promote peace and tranquility as the country nears election day, noting that due electoral processes had thus far gone well and unfettered. Addressing church leaders at the National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving at the State House yesterday, which was also attended by the First Lady Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa, President Mnangagwa said it was important that the country unites as Zimbabwe continues on its development trajectory. Zimbabwe has nothing to hide in its conduct of elections and welcomes all observer missions and diplomats to observe the forthcoming polls slated for August 23 and make their recommendations in an impartial manner, Foreign Affairs and International Trade Minister Dr. Frederick Shava said yesterday. Dr. Shava said this while briefing foreign observer missions and diplomats on the country's state of preparedness ahead of the elections. Meanwhile, police have blocked 86 gatherings of the ruling ZANU-PF party between January 1 and July 10 as compared to 65 from its main rival CCC in the same period, despite claims by the opposition party that the police were biased against it in approving its public gatherings. The statistics were provided by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Dr. Gerald Gwinji, during a briefing of observers and diplomatic missions on the government state of preparedness ahead of next month's harmonized elections. The meeting was convened by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. In business news, a new era is beckoning for the National Railways of Zimbabwe (NRZ), which is expected to tap into a $115 million line of credit negotiated by the government towards procurement of new locomotives and wagons to boost the company's freight capacity to meet the growing economic needs. The boosting of the NRZ is expected to enhance logistics efficiency across various economic sectors while easing the strain induced by heavy cargo transportation on roads. This comes at a time when the massive transformation of the country's economy under the Second Republic has necessitated urgent collaboration between the government and the private sector players to scale up maintenance, rehabilitation, and expansion of the entire transport infrastructure system to unlock more economic opportunities through improving linkages between new and old productive zones with key domestic and international markets. In news beyond our borders, U.S. President Joe Biden could face impeachment. The investigations by the House GOP into the international business dealings of President Joe Biden's family are expected to reach the level of an impeachment probe. According to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, a Republican, Joe Biden claimed to the public that he had never discussed business when he was campaigning for politics. And finally, in sports news, Dynamo's coach Herbert Maruwa says sometimes it's necessary to learn the hard way after his side slumped to a disappointing defeat to Premiership newcomers Green Fuel at the weekend. The shock defeat was a huge setback for the Glamour boys, who are targeting to end a 9-year title drought. Dynamos have struggled to properly establish themselves in the 2023 race that is currently dominated by traditional rivals Highlanders. That brings us to the end of this bulletin.
Voice of Change News.